Hi and welcome to our session on columns and beams. In fact, this won't be just about columns and beams because we're going to visit a few other little things along the way, including the multiply tool. It's greyed out at the moment because I don't have anything selected. Okay, so let's get straight into it. Let's grab the column tool, and actually I'm going to double click it. Remember, I can double click it, or I can go click here, or I can go Command T or Control T. Alright, so now you'll notice this is a slightly different layout to how it used to be, at least, and to the other tools. So you'll notice that they've actually, instead of listing everything down here like you'd see in the wall tool, okay, so notice here it's got all the classification and properties. That's all the metadata for the sort of BIM modeling. There's all of our 2D displays and all the model display stuff. So, or settings, I should say. If we go into the column tool, we'll see that they've actually split this up into sort of separate, well, they're not really tabs, I don't know what you'd call them, but sort of different views of the data. Now, here we have a lot of the default dimensions. Okay, so the width and depth of this column. Okay, so at the moment it's 300 by 300 millimeters. You'll notice the height is greyed out. Okay, so this is the total height of the column, but it's greyed out and I can't change it. Why is that? Well, actually that's to do with how we've got this currently linked to the stories, badly named stories. Let's change that now because I want you guys to really name things. Okay, name your layers, think about your data structure, if you like. It's terrible when you haven't got things named, especially at the final sort of stages of your design process and nothing's named correctly. I didn't need to do that, I just meant to go rename. I'm going to call that roof. If nothing's named, it can be so confusing. Okay, so we're going to go to floor 1, okay, and we're going to bring up those settings again. So we're going to just go Command T because I've still got it open. I haven't got a column selected, so I'm changing the default, so that means that every column I draw from now on will have these settings until I change them, at least. Okay, and so here we go. So now, at the moment, this is linked to the top story, which is the roof story, but it'll be minus 200 from that story. Okay, so that means that if I go and adjust the height of the roof, so if I decide actually I want 4 meter stud height in my top floor, all of these columns will just move up with it and still be minus 200. So I'm assuming actually this is the default thickness, I think, of the slabs. So you know, the floor, if you like, is 200 thick. So in theory, this should fit nicely underneath the floor with just the default settings. That will change depending on what your settings are, of course. We can change a lot of these things in 3D as well, and we'll have a look at that shortly. The home story, okay, so that's the story that we're currently on. Okay, but I can go and say, well, actually no, I want it going from the ground to the roof. Okay, so now this, as you notice, all double in height. You can see that this number here has changed. Yes, it's greyed out, but it is reflecting what the actual height of this will be. Alright, we can put these on an angle as well. So I could say, well, actually I want this at a, let's say a 60-degree angle. And you'll see it flop onto its side. We'll come back to this. It doesn't work on this angled setting. Okay, you'll notice that it greys out. But I'll come back to that in a sec because that's pretty cool. The zones, so yes, we can allocate zones to our building. This will allow us to calculate the volume of bedrooms or offices or hallway spaces, and so whether or not these columns get counted as part of that volume. Now this is the end section, so you'll notice at the moment, right, the bottom and the top will always stay flat. So you notice if I go 45 degrees, right, the top and bottom are still completely flat. Okay, so if I could put a floor in it, so this could be like going up to some sort of crazy cantilevered deck or something that's leaning way out here, that will be flat. If I go like this, okay, it's going to be horizontal. So this would be good if I was leaning this up against a wall, maybe it was a support of some description. This would be like as if I bought it from the shop, right? So if I just bought this beam from the shop and flopped it over at a 45-degree angle, the ends here are 90 degrees still. Okay, so you can control it, and of course you can put in your own numbers as well. Okay. Alright, so let's just pop this back up this way. Now we've also got the controls over here. This is how it gets placed, and also the angle that it gets placed at. Okay, so if I want to pop a beam into the corner of my room here, so let's say down here, I'm going to pop a beam into that corner. I can just go and put it on that mode, and go down here, and when I click, it's going to draw. Oops, it's going to draw the column to the top left of where I clicked. Okay, so very convenient. Okay, if I wanted to put a what do you call it? A beam right in the center of my room, I would probably want that set to, and I'll just delete that one. Okay, the centered one. Okay, so that's what's on by default. And I can also say, well, actually I want it on a 45-degree angle. Okay, so now when I go and click, if I want to snap this to my grid, that would be a smart idea. I can go plop. Okay, and I've got a column in the center of my room perfectly at a 45-degree angle. Lovely. Alright, so I said that I was going to show you this other setting. So let's say for some reason I've got a beam that's going to be outside of the wall here. Okay, so it's going to attach to the beam, attach to the wall. Okay, so normally, right, so I'm going to go like this. When I place this, I'm going to place this right on this edge here. Oops, you know why I did that? Because I had my snap grid. Turn that off. Cool. Oh, and I've still got a 45-degree angle as well. I can just go up here and change it. Yeah, let's say 0. Doesn't really matter. Cool. So there's my column. I'm just going to draw a little marquee around this so we can kind of see that area, and I'm going to press F4 on the Mac or F5 on the PC. We'll just fit that into our view, and we can see here's our beam that goes all the way up the building. Okay, remember I said that it's going to be it's going to live on the ground floor, but the top is going to be linked to the roof. Okay, let's just alright. Okay, so there it is. Now at the moment though, see the cladding of the building stops. Okay, now how would I get the cladding to go around it? Well, very easily. That's what this setting does. So it's smart enough to actually look at this wall and take that cladding and wrap it around the outside. How awesome is that? Cool. Now remember the other thing I said as well is that we had it, I think it's at -200 from the roof. Okay, if I want this to go all the way up though, all I have to do is I'll just grab. Now actually there's a little gotcha here. Normally you'd see that reference line, that blue line there running up through the center. Now if you want to lift the height of this, you have to click on that node, okay, with the blue line, and then you can raise this up and down. Okay, if you try and grab one of these other nodes, you'll notice that it's not an option. Okay, so grab that one with the blue line. That is the will allow you to lift this up. Okay, and I can snap to whatever I like. Okay, so if I want to snap to the very top of this, I can do that, and it goes all the way up. And notice an interesting thing happens. Okay, there's no cladding around this, and so the cladding has actually stopped as well. Pretty awesome, eh? Okay, and you'll actually see this. In fact, you watch this. If I go around, I'll go for a little walk around here again. Okay, so now that column, if I go and press F4 on it or F5 on the PC, you actually see that the cladding just wraps around just the outside. Okay, so it's not going all the way through it, just on the outside. And you'll actually see as well if it goes through a floor. Okay, so in fact if I move this over, you'll actually see it. This is going to be a little bit weird because it's going to be moving blindly. Okay. Oh no, hang on, sorry, there's no cladding there, was there? I was thinking if I could land it inside, let's say, oh I know. Let's go, okay, I've got nothing selected, right, so if I press F4, everything reappears. Okay, I'm just going to go through here. Now, I can also, have I been smart enough? Hopefully, hang on, let's just move up here a bit. If I select this, I can make that disappear by going hide the selection. There we go. So all of my slabs have disappeared. Now I think this wall here, yeah, see it's got that jib, okay, so or drywall I think you call it in America. Alright, so if we go and put our column, which has disappeared, why is that? Because we didn't put it on a very logical layer, did we? So what I can do, if I invert this selection, right, so that means that now I've actually got everything selected, everything that was hidden is now visible, and everything that was visible is now hidden. Okay, so let's go create our layers. I'm going to call it a new one called columns. And I'm going to select that, and when I go and put it onto the columns layer, so now it's on the columns layer. Now I should really do this for the default. Here's a little trick though. We have actually done a few different things to this. If I go and option click that, now that is my default setting. Okay, so now when I go and draw another column, it'll have exactly the same settings. So watch what happens if I go and put one here. Okay, and I'll go for a little walk down here. Okay, so you can actually see our jib, okay, or our drywall is still going around the outside here, and in fact if I go and F4 just this, you can actually see how complex that has ended up. Okay, so that's where the jib goes around. Okay, if we go and I'm going to make everything reappear again, so just by pressing F5 on the PC or F4 on the Mac. No, I want everything, so including this layers, right? So I can also go I don't know, it isn't like an all layers show, but what you do is get all layers hidden and then flick it around. Cool. And there's our column, all covered in jib. Okay. And it looks lovely, doesn't it? Have we gone through all those settings? Pretty much. Now there is a few other settings though. So for example, at the moment we're just dealing with a square column. If you go into the segment though, you'll actually see it's got the structure in here as well. So we can say, well actually I want it circular. And yes, the cladding will go with it. So again, I'm just going to press F4 on that. Cool, eh? So our jib, I don't know how you're going to get drywall to wrap around like that. But that's not my problem. Yeah, be very careful when you're designing stuff that you make stuff that's actually buildable. The number of things I've seen from students is quite amazing. Alright, we can taper this as well. So you'll actually see that we can actually say, well actually I want this to be 500 at the base and 100 at the top. Okay, and if I hit OK, and again it actually does it, however you'll see that the cladding disappears. Okay, so there is a few settings. So remember the beams on an angle, the cladding will disappear, and also the tapering it will make it disappear as well. Okay, and you can actually tell because when you go back into here, you can see that it's greyed out. Okay, so if it's greyed out, just check to see that you haven't got that on. I think you can still do. So I did an I-beam. It's not. Yeah, see, the I-beam won't let you either. So it's only, well, it's not always an I-beam. Your profiled columns. So that's why I said I will come and visit this in a second. Alright, is there anything else we want to put on there? We can actually put our own external cladding on here. So we can actually coat this, as you can see. So it will now look like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to pull it out of the wall settings that we have there. And again, you'll notice actually that's grayed out, and that's because we're applying our own on there. Okay, and you can put whatever you like on there. Plaster gypsum. Cool. How thick is it? It's 100 thick. Okay, and I go okay. Awesome. I think 100 mil jib is kind of a bit thick. It's usually about 6 mil. Okay. Notice it's kind of gone and messed with my column settings now. And if we go 300, there's another little gotcha that you have to just watch out for. So if I go OK, so cool, we've all got that now. I'm not sure why I've got a hole in the center there. There must be something causing that. Anyway, let's go and have a look back in here. Okay, so here's my column. No, that's not it. It's over here, isn't it? Where is it gone? Oh, okay. That'll be because one of the layers is switched off. It's our columns layer. So you just got to keep that in mind when you go and create new layers, especially if you do it in the 3D view. There's our working one that I had before. In fact, I might just put a few things on that working. Okay, so remember we had these guys. I'm just going to put them onto the working layer because I don't want to see them again. And these are, they're actually on the ground floor. Okay, if you're wondering why these are going a brown color, it's because I've got the trace enabled. If that trace is switched off, I can't see what's downstairs. Okay, I like to have it on because I generally want to see what's downstairs, and that means I can, pick or choose if I want to trace it or not. Snap to it or not. All right. Okay, so let's have a look at the segment thing. So let's go and start a new column. So I'm going to just drop a column down just outside the wall here, right? Okay, and I'm going to change just the settings of this. And what I'm going to do is I want to create a segment. So what I can do is I click on this and I can go add, and now it's kind of like I've got another column. I can even make this round, so I could be round at the bottom and square at the top, or even profiled. Okay, so I could have maybe it's like an I-beam at the bottom, and then it turns into a square column at the top. Now the reason it's offset is because of its reference line, which is why I need to kind of show you profiles, but I will do this later on. Okay, so here's my square one, and I can do little things like, so if I wanted to flare this maybe, okay, so let's say I went to, 200 by 200, and it started off as 500 by 500, cool. So it's got a larger base than it has a top. Let's just make sure that we have actually got this centered. Cool, so it's nice and centered. And I actually want this top one now to be 200 by 200. Cool. And I want this bottom segment, okay, so at the moment it's 50-50. But I actually want to put in a measurement, so I can actually say in here, well actually no, I want this to only be the first 250 mil. Okay, so we've kind of got like this base now. Now I want to go and pop one of these down. Oh. Cool, and there it is. Sorry, I think my computer hung up there for a bit. Alright, and if I go and I'm just going to select this and press F4 on the Mac or F5 on the PC. It'd be really cool if those were the same keyboard shortcut. If anybody from Graphisoft is listening. Alright, and you can see now it's got this tapered base, and I can move that around. Oops, if I use the right one. I can actually move this as well in the 3D view. Can I remember which one? I think it's this one. There we go. See, so I can actually move this up and down. Pretty cool, eh? If you hit this edit button, it does actually allow you to control just how this actually interacts. I'm not 100% sure why, but yeah, you can actually play around with this, so you can make all sorts of crazy sort of alterations to it. Cool. I have no idea what that's. Oh, that's changing the angle. Not going to make much sense until I move it around. There you go. Pretty neat, eh? Okay, and if that's the column that you like as well, remember we can we could suck the settings out of that and then go and draw another one. Oh, actually, first we have to go exit edit mode. I'm going to select that. Oh, sorry, option click that, and then we can go and do other ones. Okay, if I want one of those, option click. There's those ones. Oops, that was the wall. There we go, got that, and we can now draw those. Alright, okay, there's the other one down here. So very handy, and of course we can also, if we go and select one of these, bring up the settings, we can go in here and we can save this as a favourite, okay, and we can make lots of them. Alright, so we've seen, oh, by the way, these can have loads and loads and loads of settings. So yes, you can make very complex, sort of segmented columns. Pretty cool. Yeah, it would be really cool if you're trying to sort of like, a lot of columns you get where they have like this precast, like little braces that sort of stick out for beams to attach to, or lean on, or floor slabs to sit on top of. So you can make those all in one foul swoop and just go click. Oh, looks like it's starting to rain outside. Okay, is there anything else I need to talk about at this stage? I don't think so, not about columns anyway. There's the layers. We've got, of course, the the materials that it attaches to it. Where are the materials? Dun 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 dun. Oh, here we go. Of course. Okay, so we can actually put whatever we like on here. So we could say that it's going to be orange paint on the base. And we can click up here and can even say that one's going to actually have a yellow paint. Okay. Okay. And so now when we have a look at that, it seems to freeze my computer up when I do that. There we go. Alright. Very colourful. Okay, so let's have a look at beams now. So beams, of course, are very similar. I'm just going to delete all these. We'll go over here, have a look at the beams. But it's got some other interesting things. So columns, right? Not very exciting. Oh, what does that one do actually? Oh, that's so you can actually orientate the beam. That's the column. Beams though have a few other options. So a little bit like walls. Very similar to walls, except beams can go on angles as well. Okay. So I can actually grab this point and I can actually, let's just do this in 3D. Okay, so I'm just going to grab these and we're going to go to the 3D view. So I can actually grab this. If I grab this little reference line, you'll notice that I can do things like, where are we? Lift it up. Okay. Now, of course, this is going to cause all sorts of problems here because it's just impossible for those to join. So before people start going, oh, how do you get them to join nicely? It's like, well, that's just not going to happen. Okay, I can't just the geometry of it just doesn't work. It's trying, but it's just not going to work. Okay, that's because it's at an angle here. So I would have to tidy this up in some fashion. I'm not going to get into it, but yes, we could change this into a morph object. However, then we're going to end up creating things that you just can't actually build in the real world. So what I would actually do to pull this off would be to actually slice this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually, this is very easy actually, because if I just grab this beam, I'm just going to grab this little axe here and I'm going to axe it on this. I'm going to keep this side selected. And then I'm going to change this angle, so it should be in here, just to be flat. Cool, and now if I go F3, not looking too bad, except for why does it jump up like that? That's a bit odd, isn't it? Let's just drop that down to that level. Cool, and we'll move this over to, sorry, move this down to here. There we go. And that is buildable. Okay. Nice and square. Got a nice little piece in there that I'd have to custom make, and oops. Okay. But all very doable. So there's lots of ways of doing this. In fact, you can see even a better way. I don't really want to. Would be if I go and attach this beam and I attach it to the edge here. Okay, and it goes along. If I go F3, I can just navigate my way around there. I'm just going to do this visually, just because it's a bit more fun. And we all like to have fun. Okay, if I want to go the same angle as that, I can snap to there. There we go. Okay, again, we're going to have a little problem here, though, see? And so that's just a geometry problem. Okay, so yep, nothing is possible, whereas you can see this technique, it actually looks pretty cool. So, and keep in mind, all of these beams are the same thickness, okay, so they're all 400 by 400. So you still have design issues that you will need to solve, okay, especially like building just this little guy, which looks like that. But see, I could dimension that up and draw it up and pop that into my design. Alright. Sorry, that was a little bit of a segue, wasn't it? But I think it's good to think about sort of some of the problems that you might encounter. Okay, we've also got poly beams. So a poly beam is just, again, it's vector based, and we're just actually drawing a whole bunch of separate segments of beams that end up grouped together, so I can suspend these groups and deal with them individually as well. Alright. Another really cool way of creating beams is by using the magic wand tool. So this is our magic, this is just a curve, right? So I can go to the beam, I can hold down the space bar, and actually let's just open up our magic wand settings, if I can remember where that lives. Here it is, magic wand settings. So by default it's on this, actually it's on this. Okay, and if I go and magic wand that, awesome, look at this lovely big curvy beam. I'm just going to turn my groupings back on again, and if I press F4 or F5 on the PC, I can get this amazing curved wobbly beam. Isn't that amazing? However, probably impossible to draw. So now actually this beam is actually using a custom profile, so hang on, let's just go to this square one. Okay, just to get everything back to defaults that you guys are probably used to seeing, and in fact let's just if we go F2, I can suck the settings out of this and inject them into this. Whoopsies. That's kind of annoying, isn't it? Can I select the whole lot? Actually, you know what I could do? Go like that. Yeah. No, it's not going to let me. Okay, fine, whatever. I could save these settings if I wanted to. Oh, notice as well, I'm actually turning it back into. Unfortunately, on the PC, on the Mac, it's a bit annoying because it uses the same keyboard shortcut to inject. Oh no, it's not. I've just got fat fingers today. Alright, so this has actually now got the same settings as what we saw before. Okay, and I can actually manually curve these as well, which is actually just showing you what the magic wand settings do. Okay, now see, actually this is a good example. See how I can't actually get to things? Even if I go back to here, I probably still can't do it. No. So what I have to do is suspend my groups. Now I can select this one individual beam, and I should be able to grab that individual beam, yep, and get it to snap to there. Okay, so that's actually what the magic wand tool is doing for you. It's basically going around and it's trying to prevent this from being more than 40 millimeters away from this line here, which, to be honest, looks like it's more than that anyway. No. Yeah, see, so it's trying to get it within 40 millimeters. Although I don't know how well it's doing at that. Okay, let's go and turn this groups on, and we're going to delete this, and I'm going to go to the magic wand settings, and we'll just talk about that for a little moment. So as I said, this is the default settings. If I go linear segments, you'll get a result to like what you just saw. However, you'll notice that when we go to linear segments, we also get the option to tweak things a bit more. So I could say, well, actually, I want linear segments that are 1 meter long. And so now it's going to follow this. There you go. And each piece will be 1 meter. Okay, or at least it will be from the centers. Okay. Okay, so across this reference line, okay, it'll be 1 meter. This is actually really important to take into consideration because this might be one. Oops. Go back to here. This might be 1 meter, but okay, well, that isn't quite. It's probably just bad luck. Okay, that should be 1 meter, but remember this outside edge will be longer. Oopsies. Okay, so if that was the case, yes, you might have a little bit of a mission on your hand. You could reduce it so it was a little bit less than 1 meter, or watch this. See how at the moment, right, it's got this outside line. So if I go and change my beam setting so that the beam is actually on this right hand side, and I go magic wand, now look what happens. Okay, so now it's this outside, so now I'll get 1 meter lengths on the outside curves. Note this one here will be a problem, okay, because it's going to be longer. So yeah, there is something, I mean, that will help you. Okay, that's going to be a bit longer, but the rest of these will be actually 1 meter lengths. So I could actually, if I had a whole lot of 1 meter long beams, I could cut them at angles, which I'd have to go and document this. It would take a long time, but hey, if it was a bit of art, it would probably be worth it. But yeah, so just keep that in mind anyway. Let's go undo. Okay, so that's using the magic wand. Now, as I said before, we can, I'll just grab these settings again, and we'll delete this. We can only can only bend a beam in one direction. So, what does that mean? So, I just want, cool. So here's my my beam, and you'll see that I can bend it this way. But if I bend it this way, I can no longer bend it up towards me. Now to illustrate this, I'm going to have to do like a quick section. I know I haven't talked about sections yet, but I'm going to draw one now. So I'm just going to draw a section from here to here. Okay, hold down the shift key so it's nice and square. At the moment it's doing actually an elevation, so it will draw everything infinitely in one direction. I'm sorry, this one here, okay, but I actually want to go to a depth, and I want to go to there. Okay, that means if I go and put a column here, you won't see it in the section, okay, which has now appeared over here. If I double click on that, here's my section, okay, and you can see that that column's not there. That's because, whoops, I just want to move this up just so it's a little bit easier to see. That's because of that draw distance, okay. If I move this in here, then I will see it. Okay, I can also delete it. Alright, so now I can bend this beam up. Now you've actually noticed that we've got two ways of doing this. If I do this one, okay, this would be quite good if I want this to come up and touch the floor there, okay? Again, pretty easy because that reference line runs across the top. But I can, oh no, I can't, yeah. Or I can actually grab it from the end. Now you'll notice that if I go, oops, if I go and click, come on, undo. There you go. If I grab that one, whichever end I'm closest to is where it will attach to, okay? So if you wanted to get it from this end, you have to click near that end. Okay, so I want to go up from this end, and I want to go at an angle of 45 degrees. So that means it's going to be leaving this point here at 45. Okay, and then it's going to curve around. In theory, should be arriving there at 45 as well because the 2 points are level. Alright, now yes, I can do things like, you know, have square ends on them, okay, on both ends. Okay, so it's like as if I just bent that entire beam, which, let's face it, is going to be pretty tricky. But you'll notice now that when I go to the 2D view, bending it in this direction is no longer an option. Now there is some kind of cunning tricks you could do, but it's going to be very tricky to get it right. So for example, if I went and split my beam, okay, right on that halfway point, I'm going to keep that side selected, could try and grab this, but I'll show you what I mean. So let's say I went straight up, I grabbed this and went straight up. Okay, so it's kind of bent, I suppose. I mean, if I did it enough times it would look like it, but okay, and it looks like it's kind of bent there as well. And because I did it right on that center point, it should all line up really nicely. And if I go and select that and go F4, but are we getting a good, oh, you're actually getting a really good join. Okay, so yes, it is possible to bend these, kind of, but tricky. Only other way to do it is you could turn it into morph objects, but we're not going to go there with this. So just keep that in mind. But I mean, if you think about it though, trying to bend a beam in two different directions simultaneously is going to be so difficult to do in the physical real world. So it's probably a good thing that ArchiCAD has made it difficult. Alright, so I'm just going to undo. Alright, next thing we can do is we're going to put some holes on this beam. Okay, so if I select this beam and I click on there, you'll notice there's a little option there to add a hole. I love this one because I can actually see the width of the hole. I'm going to do a round hole. Now it is relative to where this reference line is again, okay? So if the reference line is across the top and our beam is 400 high, that means if I want to center it, I'm going to have to put this at 200. So yes, you have to do a little bit of maths in your head. Let's just make this a bit bigger again, so we'll make this 300. Okay, so it's, and you can actually see there it's got like a little dotted line showing that the hole's there. And if we look at that in the 3D view, it's still bent, and it still has a hole through it. Pretty cool, eh? If you don't want this to be bent anymore, by the way, if you actually just go and click on this one here once, now, actually I'll come back to this. I want to say keep distance, but we will come back to this. Okay, it will just go straight back to a normal straight beam, so you don't actually have to do much there. Okay, now I also said that I was going to show you the multiply tool, so I'm going to actually move this hole right to the end. Okay, so I've got this, and I'm going to select that hole. Notice how I moved it, and I'm going to go Command U or Control U or move multiply. And I'm going to change this to spread, and the spacings I'm going to set to 400. Okay, so remember there's a 300 hole, so there should be a 100 mil hole, 100 mil gap between each hole. I'm going to go OK, I'm going to drag this, and I can just drag these out, pop, all the way right out to the end. And if I go F3, you'll see I've now got a holy beam. Pretty cool. However, what happens if I bend this beam? Okay, so if I grab this, I can either keep the distances. Now the distances are across the reference line. This is really important to understand. Okay, so remember we had 400 mil centers. If I say keep distances, the 400 mil centers are from that reference line. Okay, so if you imagine if I drew a line all the way down there, what happens is that these centers here are going to actually get closer and closer together. So if we go and open up our section, okay, if I go and dimension that, you will notice that the centers aren't 400 anymore. Okay, that's because they're actually coming from up here. So I'm just going to draw a line. There we go. Cool, and then we're just going to extend that out to here. There we go. And we're going to draw a dimension. 400. Okay, so it's going across the reference line. So just keep that in mind. If you're trying to have those centered, you will have to. Now this is going to have a bit of a problem. If I go and move this to the center, you watch what happens to the position of my beam. Okay, the beam moved, the center line stayed where it was. Also notice we haven't got enough circles to go all the way around here. So I'm just going to go undo until we're flat again. Oops, one more. We'll just go. Oops. What's going on here? I undid all my holes, so that's alright. I'll just see if we can we select this guy? Hole. Now, actually, see, this is actually really important. One of my favorite features of ArchiCAD. So if I've got two slabs, right? In fact, let's say 3 slabs. If I go to select it, how do I get the one that's underneath it? And it can be really annoying, especially if you got, if you zoomed all the way in here, you just can't select anything, and so you've got to get to the nodes, and sometimes that can be really annoying. If you actually hit tab, it will tab through everything that's underneath your cursor. See that? It doesn't always work. but it does most of the time, which is really cool. And you can actually see that's what I'm doing here. See, so if I go and hover over here, if I select, I've selected the beam, not the hole. If I hit tab, in fact you can see at the bottom there it says multiple elements tab. So when you press tab, I've got hole and beam. Bam, got them. Command U. Get used to those keyboard shortcuts. We're going to do a spread. Okay, and we're going to roll it all the way out to the end. Cool. Awesome. Open up our section. This time when I go and bend it though, I'm going to actually do this other option. I'm just going to bend it randomly. Keep proportions, and you'll see that it now keeps the holes the same number of holes. In fact, let's go real extreme on this, alright? This one's easy to go extreme on. Keep proportions, okay, so yes, it's moved them further apart, but we've got the same number of holes. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about today is beam priorities. So if we go to the 2D view, what am I talking about? So we've actually already seen this with the walls and slabs and all that, and how they intersect and they'll make holes through each other. So for example, if I go and put a beam through this wall here, what happens to this wall? If I go and select that wall, got the wall? Yes I have, and I go F4, and we're going to have a little look over here. Did I miss that beam? Let's have a look here, sorry. What floor are we on? We're on the ground floor. Yeah, it should have made a hole, unless of course, hang on, let's just grab the beam and the wall and just see what's going on here. So I'm just going to go F4, it's below the wall, that's why. Okay, so if I get just the wall now, you can see that it's drilling a hole straight through it. But what about two beams intersecting each other? Good question. Alright, so if I go and draw two beams, I'm just going to delete this beam. So I'm just going to do two beams. Okay, and here are the beams crossing it. Okay, I'm going to take just these ones into the 3D view, and we'll frame that up. Okay, and if I grab this beam, you can see that this beam has been cut in half by these beams, and I'll show you what I mean, because if I go F4 on that, you can see that there's holes in it. In fact, let's just move this down a little bit just so you can really see. Oh, we'll curve it, why not? Okay, so you can see it's making holes through it. But what happens if this beam here was actually the most important beam to us? Okay, it might be very structural. So what would we do then? Well, what we do is just give it a higher priority. And so that's what this junction order means. So if we go and pop that up to 9, that now has a higher priority than these ones, which are set to 8. Okay. So if we go F3 now, you can see it doesn't have anything cutting through it. Okay, these ones do. Alright, I think that's about all I want to talk about today. If you've got questions, by all means, pop them down below, but there is lots of other forums and stuff you can ask on. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next session, which actually I'm hoping to do about a very popular one for most of my tutorials, actually by far, is working with terrains. And so we're going to be doing a little bit on how to work with what's called the mesh tool. Bit boring by itself, but we will make it look very exciting. Awesome. Till later. Bye bye.